Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Watch or Not with Jay and MJ. I'm Jay,
I'm MJ.
and we're coming back to you again this week because we loved doing it so much with House of Dragon that we figured, hey, the next big release is The Last of Us, based on a popular video game. So, welcome to our capsule for The Last of Us on HBO Max. Yay!
Yay. It's finally out.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I don't think I knew this was happening, and then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, well, look at y'all! Ain't that cute?" You know.
Well,
So for those of you who go ahead, sorry.
I want to say, it wasn't really on my radar until you told me who was in
Right.
it.
It was on my. I don't think it was. It wasn't on my rate. Okay, let me say it this way. It popped onto my radar as soon as I saw who was in it. Like I didn't know anything about it, and I was like, "Oh, isn't this that video game?" And then I watched it, the trailer, and I was like, "Oh, of course! Like I'm gonna watch this." But yes, let's start with for those of you who don't know, The Last of Us is based on a supremely popular video game. It came out in 2013.
God, has it been that long?
Yes, yes, the first one,
Wow.
and um, it's basically, it's
What?
it's basically a post-pandemic America.
Well, post-apocalyptic. It's almost like the entire world, I think. Is it just America or is it just the world? I don't know the whole game story, so I'm not sure if people in like Europe and Asia are experiencing the same thing.
I would assume, but I don't know. But it is a pandemic, which they explain in the
Hmm.
show. But uh, before we get fully into that, we can quickly kind of discuss um, the cast here. So, let me first off, what do you know about The Last of Us? What do you know about it? Like, just really quickly, what do you know, if anything?
It's a video game. Literally central or like focuses on two characters. I don't remember the main character's name, but I know the girl is Ellie. I forget the guy's name. And it just follows their trek across the country. Is all I really know about the game. I don't know if it's like in The Walking Dead where they're trying to get to like specific points, or if they're just trying
Hmm.
to survive.
Great. And I fully thought I fully was on the board of it being like a zombie apocalypse type show,
Hmm.
but I believe that was basically what I knew about it. There's a couple of more things that I know because I tried to play the game for a few hours and I just couldn't get into the game, but I really, really wanted to. So you guys, our point of view is coming from having very limited exposure to the show itself.
I want to go back and play the game now after watching this first episode because I feel like I don't know what I should be enjoying or like how accurate this is.
I agree, but I also think it gives us like a very unique point of view.
I can agree with that.
Like I think not knowing what to really expect is kind of liberating in a way. Because think about when we did House of Dragons, like our expectations were high
Very.
because we had seen Game of Thrones. So
Hmm.
I think there's a little bit of freedom in not knowing what the game is really like about.
I can get behind that. I like that. You know what? I'm gonna wait till the show's over before I go play the game, just because of that conversation just now.
And I may still be knee deep in Hogwarts Legacy, but we'll see. At some point, we plan to go back.
True. Yes.
So let's discuss the cast. So our main character is Joel Miller, who is played by the amazing Pedro Pascal, who,
From Game of Thrones, like since we've been bringing it up this whole time.
yeah, Game of Thrones, Mandalorian. When they had that jump forward in the show where he was like, I'm mid 30s daddy to I'm like about to be 40 something, late 40s daddy. I was like, both daddies can get it, first of all, just so you know. And then we have Bella Ramsey, and they play Ellie Williams,
um, which also I
who,
I know they're from
yes,
Game of Thrones, but like it was like what, 2 episodes to be honest.
no, Lady Lyanna Mormont was in a lot more than just like one or two episodes.
Okay, because
but
I remember like two
uh,
specifically.
but Bella made, and to me, Bella made a really great impact in that show with that
Yes.
character. Where I mean, maybe it wasn't just 2 episodes, but it was a minimal role. But I remember that character a lot through it. Uh, and then we can kind of go through the characters that we've met this episode. So we also can say we met Nico Parker, who plays Sarah Miller, who is Joel's daughter,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. So, but in it's kind of the catalyst that drives Joe's character, really.
Joel, yes.
Sorry, Joel. Yes.
We have Gabriel Luna, who plays Tommy Miller, and Tommy Miller is Joel's brother, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. And two more characters that we kind of meet this episode that I think are big is we meet Tess, who's played by Anna Torv, who I fucking love. I did not know Anna Torv was going to be in this, but she was in Fringe, which was a show I really really loved, like back in the early late 2000s. I think it's late 2000s, and it was on Fox, and it didn't have a lot of viewers, but it was like very niche.
Well, it
I
took me by
enjoyed
surprise.
Fringe.
Like I 100% recognize her face, but I could not go through and tell you like what I know her from. And it's
Right, and
probably going to be Fringe.
yeah. And then we have Merle Dandridge, who plays Marlene. So
Which did you see the after credits explanation about
yes,
her?
Marlene, she played the voice. She was the in the game. She was the voice, which I think is actually really cool because if you go back and look at screenshots of the game and her, they look pretty similar. And obviously, you could do that, but
Well, I
they
think
look really similar.
I think she made a point of saying that the production company did that on purpose to like make the character off of her because I think they did like face capture or at least like image capture to kind of make it similar. But I think it's really cool that they've actually asked her to reprise that role on the screen in real life now, not just voicing it.
Right. I love that as well. So that's like our main cast people that we've met. Obviously, there are people that we're really excited to see that I know have been in the trailers, but we will forego them for now. So let's go. Let's start with the show. So how does the show open up?
So the show opens up and it really shocked me because it kind of just focuses on Joel's daughter, which I did not expect to
Well,
like for the first little bit.
yes, but no, the very first thing is
Oh, the talk
we
show. Yes.
yes, with Big Head. Oh my god, Big Head. Big
Well,
Head is from did you watch Silicon Valley?
oh, over and over. Love that show.
I was like, why is Big Head in here being a host? Like, Big Head, get off TV.
Well, and I didn't realize that was Big Head because the first person I noticed was the person talking about the fungi who
Was
is,
John Hannah from
yep,
The Mummy.
from The Mummy, from Spartacus, from, I mean, like, how many things have we watched him in?
Yes, Dominus. I'm with John Hannah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that caught me off guard too. But what were they talking about in that in this kind of 1960s talk show?
I was like, yeah, like the funny part is they're smoking on camera, like they're literally smoking as they have this conversation. But it quickly turns to the conversation of fungi and how, at the moment, this could cause a complete apocalypse or pandemic in the world in the country. And it is shockingly scary the like picture that's painted and how some of the things that are happening, if these are true statements, are actually happening in our life right now. Like if the temperature rises up above a certain degree, global warming, then fungi are going to be able to adopt or evolve and be able to live and host and not be killed out by the temperature. Like because humans, they were saying the temperature's too warm for the fungi to live in us.
Right.
Like
So
it's
yeah,
just
it was a
creepy.
two. Yeah, like the two epidemiologists, like can we face another pandemic? And one's like viral one's sure, and John Hannah, who plays Dr. Newman, was like, well, I mean, that's great and all, viruses, whatever, we can figure it out. But fungi is really what I'm more interested in. And you definitely get the vibe of that other epidemiologist looking at him like, whatever.
Well,
Mushrooms, of course. Like, like
um,
really looking like that. So, and he ends that scene with like, if this happens, we lose. Thanks, Dr. Newman, for that vote of confidence in 1968 while you're smoking cigarettes.
well, have you ever so the fungi that he was referencing, the one that like inhabits the ant and like morphs it to continue on to move to another place to spread its spores. Have you seen that in real life? It's so weird.
No, I'm not. I don't think I'll be googling that. Thanks, though.
I randomly a YouTube video I watched like 3 years ago referenced it. I was like, "What is this? This isn't real." It's creepy what this thing does.
Mm, that's why. That's why. I know knowledge is power, but sometimes ignorance can be fine.
Ignorance is
Maybe I
bliss, baby.
don't need to know. Maybe I don't need to know.
True.
So that's where the show opens up. It kind of lets us know, like, hey, yo, fungal bacteria, a fungal pandemic is coming. Get on board with it.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of go to present day, which is 2003. Not present day, but we jump to 2003,
Mm-hmm.
and we meet Sarah Miller, who is Joel's daughter.
And it's actually 2003 on Joel's birthday.
Correct. Yeah. And I think the point of this, because I don't remember, I didn't play the game, but I don't know if Sarah's in the game or if she's just referenced in the game. I'm not sure. But I think I feel like what they were trying to do in this first like real 30 minutes was a few things. I think the first one was to kind of make this Sarah character immediately endearing.
Yes.
And I can tell you that it like I don't know if I've like attached to a character that quickly. Like, especially someone of the age that she's playing, because people who play those ages annoy the shit out of me. And she actually seemed to be like very, I don't know. I was like,
Well,
I like this kid. If all kids were like this kid, I would like kids.
she was very endearing. Like the type of personality she had was like, I'm still a teenager. I'm gonna have that like angsty kind of rebellious feel to her, but she was also very, quick witted and funny and likable, and people wanted her around. Like the neighbors asked like when she coming over. It's been so long since we've seen her. So like obviously people want her in their lives.
Yeah, I think I was. I think I just think she was pure. Like I don't know. I don't even know if I
I
would
could
go
agree with that.
rebellious. Like I don't think she was because see I thought the rebellious was going to come in because I was like she's stealing money. This hoe
Well,
is
it's
going to go
funny.
pawn this watch and steal money, and then she was like I'm well obviously it's like obviously I used your money to get you a gift for your birthday, but I used this to fix the watch that you loved that I knew you weren't going to do for yourself, and it's like she's automatically like immediately selfless in that,
Well,
you
it's,
know?
it's the fact that she comes back with I only took 20. I could have taken 60, but I put my
Right.
change back because I'm an honorable thief. Like the fact that she can like put that thought process together and just make light of it all is just hilarious.
Right. And I think TV shows are now realizing this. I think the thing years ago was to make teenagers of this age or, this 10, 11, 12, through 14 or 15 age to make them super precocious, extremely aware. Like they say these big words. They're just like, I think there's this want to make these children seem more grown up. And I like the
Hmm.
fact that she seems like a 14, 15-year-old kid to me. Like the things that she says, the way that she acts, the things that she does seems like something a 14 or 15-year-old would do. Is she just slightly more grown up? I think because she's had to be, take care of herself a little bit.
Well,
Yeah, but
take
I
care of
was a
her
kid.
and her dad.
Yeah, in a way, keep up with them. Like, hey, make sure we're drinking this. Make sure,
Hmm.
but it never came across as like obnoxious
No.
somehow. But when we move past that, we see like Joel is. I'm assuming they work in construction, right?
Yeah, the way it sounds like he's almost like he's the contractor and his brother helps him when he
Mm,
needs it because he's Joel's getting the jobs. He's trying to get the money he can. And he even says in the beginning, like, I don't want to split with anybody else to get the job done quicker. I didn't even want to split it with you, Tommy.
yeah. Yes. 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 So he's like, I'm gonna be gone all day, honey. Whatever. I'll be back later tonight so we can celebrate my birthday. So he comes back late. They settle in and watch a movie, and then what happens?
Tommy calls. He's been arrested, talking about how people are going crazy out at the bar and around the town. So Joel puts his daughter to sleep and leaves her alone to go bail Tommy out. Which then his daughter gets woken up by I think it's a helicopter or there's some or like lights flashing around. So I'm not sure if it's like
Yeah, both.
explosions or yeah. So she like kind of starts looking outside. Um, and oh my god, like when they started showing the dog from next door like getting out and being around, I was like, don't you fuck with that dog. I will be pissed if in 20 minutes of a show you fuck with a dog. Like, just don't do that.
Yeah, can I tell you one of the creepiest things? After, after school, she goes to the neighbor's house,
Yes.
right? I know I skipped past that, but the creepiest thing was the lady in the wheelchair when she was out of focus and Sarah was getting her
Oh.
school books together, or I think she was getting her school books together. She was doing something,
Mm-hmm.
but she was picking out a movie. Remember, she was picking out Joel's favorite movie
Yes.
to borrow, like the DVD. And the lady in the background was like moving her arms around and her mouth was agape. I was like, what the hell is going to happen? And then nothing happened. I was like, oh my God.
Well, especially like I said, when she's doing that and the dog's just staring at her like, what is wrong with you?
Yes. I mean, I think we could all know, this is why when my dog barks and stares at things, I'm like, what's happening? Where are we?
Mm-hmm.
Please tell me what's going on. We don't play around with dogs. If a dog says, if a dog sends shit,
Oh,
no
exactly.
shit. So, but regardless, yes, we get back. She's woken up by bombs and helicopters and whatnot. And she hears the next door neighbor's dog, who was throwing up some red flags earlier,
Exactly.
out there. And she's trying to take the dog home. And the dog gets out of out of the collar and just takes off.
Well, A, good on you, dog. But B, when you go back to the house to see what the dog's running from and you see the front doors open and she takes her first step in and you slip on blood, obviously a puddle of red liquid. I don't think I'm going to go any further until my dad gets back, especially at 14.
See, I think she's in the house already, but I could be wrong. I thought she was in the house.
Like she
but that
stepped
doesn't
through, she stepped through the front door of the neighbor's house, and that's where she hits the blood the first little bit. I think maybe it was just a little bit down the hallway into the kitchen before she turns the corner to see the guy.
That's what I feel like it was, but that doesn't negate your point.
I'm still backing out.
Exactly. Regardless of where you found blood, you're like, this is just like a drop of blood. This is a literal spillage
Oh yeah.
of blood. But I get that you want to turn around, but I also think that that's my old self, being like, oh no, I don't put myself in those kind of situations. But maybe as a 14 or 15-year-old, you're kind of you're curious because this is the next door family. Maybe something happened to the old lady or something's going it's that aspect of it. Maybe
I would say the only thing I could justify that is because they like having her over and she does go to bake cookies with them and knows the grandma's been having issues and they know that they've been taking her into the city for healthcare needs.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Maybe her personality is okay, selfless, pure. I'm going to check to make sure I don't need to call the ambulance. I could see that maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Because for me, what is the? I would assume, but what is the 911 operator going to say when you call it? What's going on? And it's well, I don't know. I went into my neighbor's house and there's blood. I didn't see what's happening, but there's blood. I think they would still say somebody, but I think for me, I'd want to be able to at least say what was going on. But regardless of that, she walks in, she sees Mr. Adler, I believe was his name.
Mm-hmm.
In the corner. To me, it looked like he was saying run.
I didn't get what he said. I didn't have the subtitles turned on or the closed caption, but
I didn't either.
I couldn't tell if it was help me, get out, run. But he obviously had a gash in his neck and he was just maybe it was just air escaping
Maybe so. It seemed to me like he was trying to say something.
Yeah.
But she comes around the corner and there's old lady Adler, lady in a wheelchair.
Just feeding.
Right. And then this is what the weird thing was because it wasn't teeth. It was weird things coming out of her mouth.
That's the fungi. That is the tentacles. That are the branches. That's the roots of the fungi that's in her.
Right. I knew that. I just didn't know what it was called. I don't know if it's the roots, but
But yeah,
I didn't know if it was if that's what that was. So that caught me off guard because I wasn't sure. I went in thinking zombie.
Yes.
Obviously. So old lady Adler looks up, sees Sarah, and is like, yo, bitch, it takes off. Well, after her.
And so, but then Sarah runs outside, and luckily at the same time, Joel pulls up with Tommy. And literally, Tommy's got a gun. And this I don't know why it's my favorite line in the movie, or the show. And I'm sure Emily even looked at me when I did this. But old lady Adler's running out after him. Tommy's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? and Joel just whacks her with a wrench. I don't know why, but my first instinct was, we're putting down old bitches. That's what we're doing.
Is that what he said?
No, I said that. I was like, oh, he put down.
Oh,
Like, that was my
okay,
first, like,
gotcha.
I just reacted that way. I was like, oh, I was like, it was like a very visceral, like, just knee jerk, like, we're putting down old bitches. I was like, I didn't mean to say that. My bad.
But yeah, so that's where it is, and she's obviously doesn't know what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
but they obviously have gotten wind of something, and they're like, "We have got to go. Like, we ain't grabbing no shoes or nothing. Jesus, we're leaving
Well, but did
right
you see that after
now."
they knocked her out, her husband, the guy she found in the corner, comes running out also. So he had already been infected and was coming out to feed like she was.
Yes, because I know that when they get in the truck and they go to drive away, the next door neighbor across the street from Joel and Sarah's house is like, "Joel, what's going on?" And he yells, "Get back in the house, lock your doors, and stay there."
Yeah.
And they don't. So you see them like in the garbage, and you see as they're driving away, you see the two of them or two of the people run out of the house, which I guess is Mr. and Mrs. Adler. They come out of the house, and the neighbor that Joel told to run obviously goes to try to figure out what's going on with them and trying to help them. And then obviously they get attacked. So
Big mistake. Don't ever help. You just worry about you and your own.
fast forward to this. This is its own like little act one. Like they're driving through the streets. There's havoc. There's bombs. There's policemen. There's people, trying to get out of town.
Literal planes
They're
falling from the sky.
literally like just like crashing into things. And Tommy and Joel and Sarah are really just trying to escape at this point. And they, because of one of the planes crashing, like literally on the street, their truck gets flipped. Then they have to start trying to make their way on foot.
Well, so their truck gets flipped, but then you forgot that it's like a cop car rams into their truck, which separates Tommy from Joel and Sarah.
Yeah, I'm like finer details.
But yes,
So who do they? But they, yeah, go ahead. And then they run into
exactly run into it. The army.
right, which obviously you're like army guys help,
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, you would assume
If I see someone in fatigues, I'm like help.
Like,
Now, I didn't say uniform. I didn't say police uniform. I said fatigues.
like fatigues with an AR, like ready to protect you, is what you would assume.
Exactly. Which I guess is kind of what he was meaning to do.
Well, until he radios into his superiors, and literally Joel's like, "We're not infected. Look at us. We have like we're not an issue."
Mm-hmm.
And Fatigue Man is over here like, "Sir, what do I do? What do I do?" And all you hear is, "Okay, okay, got it." And then he just like, I don't remember if he like cocks his gun or like just raises it, but Joel automatically knows what's about to happen.
I think he starts to say, "I'm sorry." I think the military
Okay.
guy says sorry. I feel like he says something kind of apologetic to like
Yeah.
following orders, and goes to like aim the gun at them. He might have cocked two, as you said,
Hmm.
and then the bullets go off and they kind of dodge and roll down the hill.
Yes. And it's very quick. Like you see, like I think Joel almost like throws because he's carrying Sarah currently. I think he kind of like throws her because her ankle's hurt to like
Oh,
put her out like
yes,
out of the way.
right. So he's carrying her in his arms because her arm got hurt in the car crash.
Hmm. Um.
I guess they're SWAT.
Oh, is that who was in the fatigues?
Yes, it was SWAT.
Okay.
And finer details, but like he does say I'm sorry, but he then goes to shoot them, and Tommy shows up and shoots the SWAT member. I think the SWAT member then fires off a few rounds.
Like an almost like an impulse, like your finger like muscle tenses and like he pulls as he's
Maybe
dying.
so. Maybe so. And then they fall down the side of the hill and explain the rest to me. It's heartbreaking for me.
It's heartbreaking because you see Joel like Tommy comes over, you see Joel get up and he's like, okay, we're good. And then you start hearing spluttering. And I'm like, you never want to hear spluttering after gunfire goes off. Because pan over and Sarah's on the ground and you can just tell on her stomach it's just dark red and sticky. Because freaking SWAT guy had unloaded and hit Sarah like multiple times of what it appeared right in her stomach. Oh, just this thinking about it gives me chills.
Yeah, so obviously at that point, they have to leave her. She dies in his arms, and that's kind of where we leave Joel and Tommy.
Well, this is
And
their first experience with what's going on. Like this is setting the mood for them with the world and how it's going to change over the next 20 years.
right, I mean, we don't know how it's going to change, but we do know, like, hey, this is a major catalyst. This is
True.
for Joel himself. And then we do, flash forward to present day, 20 years, later. And all we see Boston. And we see immediately how deep and how dark and how bleak things have gotten, not just from the establishing shot, but there's a little boy wandering through the woods up to the wall of Boston. They let the kid in. They treat him with kindness. They're like, hey, kid, how are you doing? Are you feeling okay? Do you have anybody else? Do you have any family? And then they take his temperature, and we don't immediately get to see what's going on. But she's like, the lady that's helping is like, all right, you know what? We're going to, give you a shot that's going to make you feel better. And we're going to go find your favorite foods. Does that sound great? And the kid's like, sure. And they give him a shot. And then we cut to see them burning, infected bodies. And a new truck pile comes up with more bodies. And one of them is the little boy.
Well, and it's literally just a burn pit. This is how like
Yeah.
you see like Boston's encased in a wall now. They're burning the dead who were infected because I don't know if it's their temperature, but like the screen once they did whatever turned red, which to me red's never good. I was like, oh, that means he's infected, is what I assumed.
I don't think we saw that it was red.
I thought we did.
Oh no,
Maybe
we might have.
Maybe I'm just projecting for later.
It might have been red. You have to be right. I feel like that pops. I feel like you're right about that. But yeah, so there are people who are obviously doing work and they're burning the bodies. And when the truck backs up, the kid is there, with the bag over his head with his arms tied.
Mm-hmm.
And this is when we see Joel for the first time, who is, I know this is a dire situation, but still looking daddy as hell, fully grayed for the most part,
Weathered
and
for the best.
Yeah, the lady working with him is like, I can't do that. And he picks up the body himself and, throws it into the pit. So that's where we kind of understand exactly how far gone or how far down like things have happened, like how far we have fallen. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like consistently children have been off limits in a lot of shows like this. Like we don't show that kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's brave. I don't want to say brave, but I think and I don't want to say cool either because killing people or kids is not cool. But I think it was kind of like they pulled a Degrassi and they went there. Like
to me, it was
watched this
jarring.
show. Yeah, like they went there. It's been 30 minutes and we've seen a death of a 14-year-old and a death of like a kid who's probably 8 or 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Like this is how far we've gone. Like, I think that was, great to establish like the severity of the situation.
And did you notice that after they were done with the burn pit, they were having to like dig the ashes and put them in like bins to dispose of even the ashes to make sure nothing got out?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was, it wasn't just like, we're just going to drop them in a fire and walk away. Like, no, like we're going to like clean this up after we're done.
Yeah. No stone unturned.
Oh.
No. Yeah. And then, and basically to me, I feel like Boston, like we start, after this, we start to really see what's going on in Boston.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like it's a police state.
It's like, easily, yes. They quickly established with like overhead shot views of like police up on rooftops patrolling to make sure like if anything pops off, they are ready to put it down. Right.
There's curfews in effect. They're not even using money. They're using, I think we hear what the name of it is later, but they're using ration cards as payment.
Okay. I thought they kept saying papers.
I think they say papers too, but I think the actual name of them is ration cards.
Okay.
And that's only because I'm reading
Well,
it.
and you quickly see that after they're done with the burn pit, like Joel goes to the guy who like assigns him his payment for the day, and even asks like, "Give me my next job. Like, sign me up. What is
Right.
next?" And then when he tells him there's two options, he goes, "Which pays more?"
Right, exactly. So this is how they barter. Like the ration cards probably what gets them food,
Hmm.
probably what gets them supplies, and anything like that. Which makes total sense. Um, but we also find out that not only is Joel like burning bodies and doing odd jobs around the city, he's also selling drugs to Fedra officers.
Well, as a and for lack of a better term, he's an oxy dealer.
Yeah, that's not like a better term. That's the term.
Like he literally
He,
is just selling it painkillers.
right, for ration cards, like for more money. Like he's really trying to get more money, or I guess what we would call, but this is money or whatever. So yeah, he's doing a lot of he's really trying to like he's trying to make that dough. Like he is on his hustle game.
Oh yeah, 100% he is.
Right. So I mean, I think we there's a lot of stuff. This episode didn't seem it wasn't a lot that happened, but there was a ton that happened. Like we hear about who the Fireflies are. Which who are the Fireflies? Quickly.
They're the radicals. They're the like group who's trying to fight the police state.
Right, they're
The
a resistance
rebellion.
group.
Yes.
They're the rebellion. Yeah, let's bring it. Let's get that Star Wars lingo in here. They're the rebellion. Yes, I love it. And they are apparently blowing things up. You know, they probably been labeled terrorist by the government because what have you. And we also kind of start to find out like why Joel is trying to get, you know, all these ration cards. And we meet his partner Tess, who is trying to get a battery for a car.
Yeah, because we find out that Tommy's still alive, and I guess he does expeditions out into the wilderness, which is illegal because you see people being hung for breaking a quarantine zone.
Right, for leaving the quarantine zone. And they're hanging people in the square, handmade stale style.
Oh
Like they are
yeah.
not kidding around. So yeah, so I didn't realize everything that was going on, but the guy they bought the battery from, apparently they gave him the money. He sold the battery to somebody else and then took their money. And they beat up Joel's friend Tess. And she's like, look, we'll forget about everything. Just let me like I'll talk to Joel. And they're like, we're scared of Joel. So they're scared of
Rightfully
Joel. And she's
so.
like, right. And like, I'm not going to tell him, just get me the battery. Just well, can we meet later? Can we talk about this? You know, whatever. And as they're doing that, a bomb just like blows up and she ends up getting arrested by a federal officer or whatever because the Fireflies are attacking or what have you.
Well, and we find out later as we like get into the couple scenes that the guy who is selling the
Yes.
battery is part of the Fireflies.
Well, I don't know if he was part, but he was selling the battery to the Fireflies.
But he was in that like meeting room. I figured he was one of the higher ups. Like he was almost like the like collector. He could move between and find the parts and necessary equipment for people.
Yeah, I'm not sure how. It's really confusing. That part to me was a little confusing because we do come back to the Fireflies. We do end up seeing them because this is where we meet Ellie for the first time,
Hmm.
being chained to a wall. They're testing her. They're making her count things down,
They're testing her
and we don't
cognitive
know why.
abilities.
Right, I guess I gathered that they think she's infected.
Yeah,
Right,
because they
that's
have
what
her
I gathered
chained.
immediately.
Hmm.
Right, so that's where we're kind of like that's where we meet her, and then you find out that she's actually in the Fireflies like main base slash hideout.
Well, so did you see, and maybe you looked away, or it was a very quick pan, the scene where the kid comes into Boston originally, they pan up to the wall, and there's a sign, and it tells you, like, time frame of how quickly the fungus moves through you.
Yes,
So, yeah, so that's where
yes,
it's like everything, like, you would be fully taken over. I think I didn't get to the feet. Like, I know, like, the brain was like 10 to 15 minutes, body was a couple hours, and then, like, mid body, and I think, like,
it was
legs.
it was 24 to 28, I believe.
Okay. So, yeah, so that's where I think
24 to 48.
and that's where Ellie, they've tested her, and like she makes a point of like the same as yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day, like, so she makes a point of like I've been here for like a week at least, if not longer.
Right, she's been there for a while.
Yeah.
Um, and this is where like for us. that was our first kind of shot of her. We end up figuring out who the Fireflies are, and we're introduced to Marlene, who is the leader of the Boston Fireflies, basically. And she is basically, telling, I guess, her assistant or whoever her friend, like they're like, what does it do with this girl? And she's like,
don't ask
she
questions.
tells her, right, like, don't ask questions. We need to leave this quarantine zone and we need to take this girl west. That is our priority right now.
Well, and they don't even say like where west. Like again, are we going to like the FCC? Are we like what are we leading to? Is there a scientist we're taking this girl to? What's the point?
Right, exactly. So we don't know, but they know we've got to get this girl out.
Yeah.
So we then kind of figure out why Joel and Tess are wanting a battery. Tommy, who we find out is actually part of the Fireflies, his brother, is still around.
Mm-hmm.
And he went to Wyoming and hasn't come back. So Joel is trying to get a battery to get in a car to drive to Wyoming and get Tommy. Him and Tess are trying to do that. So it's been 3 weeks. They're like, we haven't heard word. We're going to go out there and do this ourselves.
And that's where they figure out, like Tess kind of fills in Joel on like, okay, these bruises are from XYZ. The battery, this is why we don't have it. So they make a plan to go find the guy who, quote unquote, sold them the battery and took it back and sold it again to go collect the goods they're due.
Right. So they go through. So then Ellie and Marlene kind of have a conversation, and Marlene kind of tells her, this is why I have you chained up. This is what's going on. She knows her name because the girl, Ellie's saying, my name's Veronica. And she's like, no, I know your real name. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm telling you to trust me that, apparently Ellie was in an orphanage,
Oh, yeah.
And she says,
military camp or something.
Yeah, she was put in orphanage by Fedra. But Marlene says, no, I'm the one that put you there. And I know your real name. And she basically is like, to me, she's been watching over Ellie for her entire life.
Well, and that alludes to me like that they knew something was special about her, which I don't like. I want to know more. Like, this is why I want to play the game. Like, what is supposed to be like what's been known about this girl so long that she's being watched over?
Right. So that's the thing. It's like she tells her, like, you've got a greater purpose. This is why we're gonna leave tonight, and we're gonna take you with us. And before we can get, into that anymore, we see Tess, and Joel skulking in the subway. They know where the guy who's supposed to have their battery is hiding, and they're kind of going through the subway, going through back doors, back hallways. We get our first real glimpse of like a fully funginated zombie, I guess, like up against the wall and dead with like basic like mushrooms coming out of its face and stuff.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it really is super weird. We get our first glimpse of that. And as they come up out of hiding, they see a bunch of like dead bodies, like recently like dead bodies.
Well, so they get up to the door that's supposed to be like a back door into the place they're breaking into, and there's something blocking it. And Tess is like, oh, did they move something in front? And they look down, and I think they see some like blood trickle under the door.
Yes.
Which they then they just rush in.
Right. They rush in, they get in there, there's bodies all over the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor. And you're welcome for that reference.
I started singing the same thing the moment you said it.
And then they see the battery on the ground, and the battery's like, this battery was no good anyway.
It's
like,
corroded, it wouldn't have connected, there's no charge, that thing is old.
Right. So this is where we find out that they were trying to sell the batteries to the Fireflies. And that obviously Robert, who's the guy who was selling everything, was obviously trying to fuck all of them over.
Yes.
Like, he took Tess and Joel's money and didn't intend to sell them the battery, sold it to the Fireflies, was selling them a shitty battery. So he was obviously, it was a bad deal. They shot each other up, and we see Marlene and her kind of assistant come out kind of bloodied, obviously had been through a fight, and they run to Joel and Tess, and they all know each other, which we know because Tommy apparently this is where we learned Tommy's a Firefly.
Exactly.
And And this is when we also see Ellie pop out of the corner. You know, she's angry with her knife. She just fucked you about 80 times in this whole episode. And she's got her knife and she's, you know, pissed. And Joel's kind of like, whatever, sit the fuck down. Hooda, 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 hooda. Hilarity ensues. And I think Joel and Tess were like, look, we're going out looking for Tommy. Like, what's the deal? And this is where Marlene's like, hey, I'll make you a deal. Can you take her with you?
Yeah, like we were already trying to take her that same way. Just include her in your expedition.
Exactly.
And that's where Joel and Tess are like, the fuck we are.
Right, exactly. And right, exactly. Which is fine, but they eventually agree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which is cool. So they're like, okay, great, we'll agree. We'll sneak out of town tonight, and we'll take her back with us. And this is where they wait till nighttime to go back to Joel's place, and Tess and Joel and Ellie then start to sneak out of the quarantine zone.
Yes. Now the only thing, and this is just because I like how they ended the show. Apparently, there's code with the radio, so you find it like while Ellie and Joel are in his apartment, there's a specific code where like, okay, if it's a '60s song on the radio, it means this. If it's a '70s song, it means this. If it's an '80s song, it means this. But '80s didn't have a description, so Ellie was trying to figure out what '80s was.
60 was nothing in, 70 was new stock, 80 just had an X.
Yes, so there was yes, okay, and that's where then as Joel falls asleep and then wakes back up, she plays a trick on him and it's like, oh, an '80s song, like she names one, came on the radio, and he just like freaks out and she goes, okay, I get it, '80s means trouble and shit's gonna get real.
Right. So when it does finally get dark, they say we're going to sneak out.
Yeah.
So we follow them through, you know, the elaborate path and through dark areas. And when they finally get outside of like just outside of the wall, they run into, and there's tons of like helicopters and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We run into one of the guards taking a pee on the wall, and he turns around and it's the one that Joel was selling pills to.
Exactly, which is why when he turns around, he goes, "You've got to be kidding me."
Right. And I think at that point, Joel's like, okay, well, you got to be kidding me, but we got this.
Yeah, he very quickly is like, you know what, we know each other. Like, I won't say anything to you. You know what I'm selling. Like, what I'm promising is good. Like, we can make a deal here.
Right. But then what's weird about it is like, this dude is like, I'm going to follow the rules. I'm like, you're probably high on Oxycontin right now, and now you want to follow the rules?
Probably. He's probably no sleep, because they even mentioned when he's buying the pills earlier that the more people you kill, the harder it is to sleep. So he's probably going like zero sleep, high on pills. He's just out of his mind.
Right. So he makes them all get on their knees, and they're trying to explain like, hey, dude, just let us go this time. You know, all your pills will be free from now on. Like, let's make a deal. And then he's checking them with like the temperature reader or the infection reader, and he gets to Ellie and it turns red.
Well, and that's where she stabs him, like, because she knows that's where she figures out, like, it comes to her, like, it's going to register, even though she's not really infected, it's still going to show as infected.
Right, which that's what we don't. Yes.
Like she's not taking over. Let's put it that way.
Right, she stabs him, and he obviously flips out. The thing turns red. Tess and Joel see the red thing, and they're like, "What the fuck is happening? Like, what's going on?" And Ellie shows them like a scar, and she's like, "I'm not infected. I swear I can't get infected." And then they're like, "Let us explain to the cop," and he points the gun at them. And I believe this is kind of where we see where Joel kind of, you know, flashes PTSD. Back to protecting a little girl, you know, protecting his daughter from, you know, a federal officer who's got a gun pointed at them. And he flips his shit and beats the shit out of this guy.
Oh, God.
Beats him to death.
Yes, brutally.
And Ellie's kind of watching, but she's kind of like liking it.
The look on her face was like, "Oh shit! Like yes, do that." Like she was almost like cheering him on with the way she looked.
Yeah, that kind of threw me off a little bit. But he does that, and she's like, she says that she's not affected, that she was bitten. She says it's been 3 weeks, but nothing has ever happened to her.
Yeah.
So even though they get this, I guess they're saying we'll discuss this later. Let's keep moving. But as they kind of leave, what pops on the radio is an '80s song, and that's when we're understanding shit. They're gonna face some shit.
Well, and that's where, and it's beautifully how they left it off because it just cuts back. You have it framed perfectly in the center of the image, the radio, and the light clicks on. It's just like droning, like depressing, like '80s song, and obviously we've realized, okay, that means trouble. So is that coming on because the Fireflies are aware of what's coming for them because they just beat that guy senseless? Or are there infected coming? Like what's making the Fireflies nervous to have this song come on?
Right, right, exactly. And that's kind of where we end the episode. So it's a lot.
It is. It's a lot to unpack, especially again with us coming in blind and not really knowing the story for real. Like,
right.
There was a lot of information presented very quickly in this episode, and I think it was done well. I don't think it was rushed.
I agree. I am glad. Like, I am glad the first episode was an hour and 25 minutes. I think it was an hour. I think it was 84 minutes. I think that is the best way to do it. Like, make that first episode, like, really give us the grace, give us time. Like, you cannot expect that everyone has played this game. You have to draw the rest of us into this story. But I did hear from somebody who's played the game multiple times. They told me that scene where they're kneeling and she stabs him. They said that's almost shot for shot what happens in the video game.
Well, and to build on this, I saw a post that, so to reference another show we reviewed on the podcast was Halo. I believe the cast of Halo, when they shot it, they told them not to play the game. Don't let the game influence how you want to play this character. They've told this cast the same. I'm pretty sure I saw that they told Ellie and Joel specifically, like they're the two characters there, don't play the game. Don't have any like forethought ideas. Come in fresh.
Right, but I did think it was cool that like they're lifting, and I was thinking either way with not doing it, but it is cool that they're lifting direct scenes from the game. I don't think they could go without really doing it, but it is cool that they're actually, really also following that source material. To me, if they're lifting scenes and they're following it pretty closely, is what I would think.
Which I'm happy about. And honestly, this type of game, it's so theatrical, I guess, in the production of it, because it's literally just a story of, from what I know, two people traversing the country for some reason. So you're going to have a lot of downtime and a lot of time for them to either bond or have issues and grow. So, like, yes, you have to, because I guess of how, like, elaborate the game is, I don't think there's any other way besides them, like you said, pulling exact scenes or very close to the exact scene from the game.
Yeah, I think I don't understand why it took us so long for video games to do this. Like, I could see this treatment going with Ghost of Tsushima. I could see this treatment going with God of War. Like,
God of War's been greenlit for a show.
Right. And I'm like, these games have campaigns that if you take out all the gameplay, the story is probably 8 to 10 hours long.
Yes.
If you take out all the gameplay. So it is set for you to be able to turn this into a TV show. Like, it's written. You just have to do it the right way.
Exactly.
So I hope that this is done well. It continues to be done well. But for me, I would give this episode a 7.5. A solid, a solid 7.5, which to me is like a B plus. Only because we have to go from somewhere. But I think this was a very cool. I think it was a very solid introduction of me into this character, into this world.
Yes.
Specifically, I think HBO is continuing this trend of being able to really adapt things very well. What say you?
I agree with your rating, but I think my reason behind it is probably a little different. I fully got the character of who Joel is. I understand his past and his experiences, and I get you can't give everyone a backstory the first episode. So this one, I think, did a really good job there. I wish they would have did a little more fleshing out of Ellie's character, just to be like, okay, maybe show how, if she was like, was she mistreated when she was in the orphanage? How did she get attacked? And maybe that's all to come. I don't know.
I would assume that's all to come. I would think, to me, I think they focused on the right person.
They did.
I don't think that. I think we got what we needed from her.
Yes.
She's a feisty kid. She's obviously very feisty, very, very headstrong, very forward, very opposite of, Joel's daughter, of the antithesis, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, for me, if it were flipped and we had learned more about her instead of him, I don't know if I would have liked it as much. I like that they picked one person. They said, we are going to focus on Joel, because my limited interaction, I think also the other reason they did it, because I do believe that the first game is more of Joel's story, and I think the second game is more of Ellie's story continuing. So, but that's me. That's what I think, but I don't know.
And looking at it, I mean, the more I think about it now constructively, obviously she has more to tell. Yes, he's the gruff person, and you give him a reason on why he's willing to go put his life on the line for a teenage girl around the same age as his daughter. I get the motivation. Where, like I was saying earlier, and like I said, me critically thinking here, she has more backstory. Okay, she could have been, excuse me, she could have been abused in the orphanage. What happened when she was infected? Go have an episode where it goes through those first 24 hours after her bite, and have a flashback and let her relive. You have more to do with her, so you obviously need to have that spread out throughout the season.
Yes, correct. I agree.
So the more I think about it, I agree with you to begin with that they focus on the same person. But yes, if the questions are something that I wanted answered or more from Ellie, I feel like that would have ruined or taken away, because there's so much you can do with her now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yay. 7.5. I'm excited to see what's coming up.
Yeah, I definitely, like I said, I'm excited to get through this, hopefully find some time and go back and play The Last of Us, because did it win Game of the Year when it came out originally? It was in contention. I don't know if it won, though.
I have no idea.
Because it's definitely a really a critically acclaimed game.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's critically acclaimed. Yeah.
Well, that's everything I had to say about the first one. I think, as just like with the House of Dragons, we'll probably get longer and longer episodes as the season goes on, because we'll have more to add. But I'm putting on you now, Jeremy, to not look into the game. I feel like I'm the one that needs to
I'm not going to.
I feel like I'm the one that's going to have to be watched on that, because I like how we're going to this not really knowing what's going to happen.
I'm not going to look up anything. I have willpower, so I never planned to look it up.
Fair enough.
I never want to look it up, because I always intended on going back to the game, so I didn't want to ruin it. So I don't have any issue not doing that.
Okay, fair enough.
That's me. Cool. All right. Well, everybody, we will talk to you all next week when we review episode 2 of The Last of Us. So we'll talk to you all next week.
All right. Bye. You've been listening to Watch or Not with Jay and MJ.
Interact and give us suggestions on what to watch at watchornotpodcast@gmail.com.
You can follow us on Twitter at watchornot_pod.
And don't forget about Instagram, you guys, at watchornotpod.
Don't forget you can support the pod by joining our Patreon at Watch or Not with Jay and MJ.
And subscribe and leave a review wherever you guys listen to podcasts. Talk to you soon.